Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Sunday service. It's the first since we closed our temples almost 5 months ago. Now, before we begin our service, we are very happy and honored to have Bishop Marvin Harada here today to introduce our new ministers. Bishop?
It is my pleasure to be part of your service today here at the West LA Buddhist Temple to introduce to all of you your new ministerial staff. I know that probably sounds strange, ministerial staff, when for years you have only had one minister at a time. But today is a new beginning for the West LA Buddhist Temple. It is the beginning of a new era, a new horizon, a new venture. First of all, allow me to introduce you to your new resident minister, Reverend Koho Takata. Reverend Takata has been serving as a minister for 25 years in Hawaii and in the BCA. In Hawaii, he served as the executive assistant to the bishop when Hawaii hosted the World BWA Conference. After coming to the BCA, he has served at the Arizona Buddhist Temple and the Los Angeles Betsuin. At the LA Betsuin, Reverend Takata was instrumental in starting the Dharma Center program, and he hopes to initiate a similar Dharma Center here at the West LA Buddhist Temple. The Buddhist education program is vital for a temple to grow, to reach new people, and to share the teachings into our greater community. I would like to thank Reverend Takata for accepting this assignment to serve here, and I would like to thank your temple leaders for accepting this assignment. I hope that it will be a relationship in which you mutually grow and are nurtured in the Buddha Dharma. Secondly, it is my pleasure to introduce you to your new part-time Kaikyoshi assistant, Reverend Koe Amy Umezu. Reverend Amy has received Tokudo, has been studying at IBS, and will be receiving Kyoshi when our next group from the BCA is able to receive Kyoshi at our Nishihonganji. I've gotten to know Reverend Amy through the many MAP or Minister's Assistant seminars that we have had at the Jodo Shinshu Center, and I see her as someone with great potential. Reverend Amy's dream is to develop a Buddhist college campus ministry. Where better to try something like this but right here at West LA, with UCLA practically in your neighborhood. Reverend Amy will serve part-time here and work at developing connections at UCLA to help bring college students and young people to this temple. She will also assist Reverend Takata with the Dharma Center program when it gets established. With the experience and bilingual capabilities of Reverend Takata and the young enthusiasm of Reverend Amy, and with the supporting and encouraging Sangha of West LA Temple members, I think we can look forward to some great things coming out of this temple. This is a wonderful opportunity to try something new, something creative, something innovative that hasn't been tried at any temple before. As bishop, I will do all that I can to support the work of both ministers and your temple leaders here under the leadership of President Connie Yahata. May the future bring a flourishing of the Buddha Dharma here at the West LA Buddhist Temple. Both ministers serve with the support of their families and spouses. I would like to briefly introduce to all of you, first of all, Reverend Takata's family. Reverend Takata's wife, Yuka, daughters Kaylee and Shanti. Kaylee is a student at Cal State Pomona, and Shanti will be a junior in high school at Arcadia High School. We'd like to welcome them to the West LA Buddhist Temple. Thank you. Be seated. And Reverend Amy is supported by her wife, Marie, and I believe perhaps at the end of the service, you'll be able to see her on camera as well. These are my introductions to your new ministerial staff here at the West LA Buddhist Temple.
Thank you, Bishop, for the wonderful introduction of our new ministers. Next, we will have sutra chanting, Ju Seige. and English. Sensei?
Would you please join me in Gassho from the Raja Sutra? Wherever the Buddha comes to stay, there is no state, town, or village that is not blessed by his virtues. The whole country reposes in peace and harmony. The sun and the moon shine brightly, the wind and rain are timely, and no disaster or disease ever occurs. The people live in peace, so there is no need to use soldiers and weapons. People respect virtues, cultivate benevolence, and diligently observe humility. Namo Amida Butsu, Namman Dabutsu, Namman Dabutsu. Good morning, everyone. How are you this morning? I hope all of you are well and safe. As Bishop made a special introduction, I'm Koho Takata, the new resident minister of the West Los Angeles Buddhist Temple. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to Bishop Harada, President Kani, and all of you for allowing me to serve at your temple. I humbly ask for your help and support. I'm very looking forward to hearing the Buddha Dharma with you. And thank you very much for attending today's service. I understand this is the very first Sunday service via Zoom for your temple. Temple leaders were working very hard to set up this system, write and mail the letter out to members, and so forth. My special thank you to President Kani and her board members enable us to have today's service possible. Thank you very much. As you may know, this year is the 75th memorial for victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I heard from Yahata-san, there are many members of this temple came from Hiroshima. So this morning, I'd like to share the Buddha Dharma through the tragedy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing. And this country, United States of America, dropped 2 nuclear weapons over Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August 6 and 9, 1945. It was a very sad incident. Many survivors who encountered the atomic bomb are still suffering and dying even today. The number of deaths by the incident is still increasing each year. It is important for us to remind ourselves of the sacrifices made by others and to renew our quest to constantly seek the truth in all matters. We often use the word peace and observe peace activities, but please take a moment to reflect upon what does peace mean to us. To pursue peace, nations started wars, and they took many innocent lives by causing wars. Many people celebrated when they won at the war, and the nation emphasized that it was for peace and justice. However, for me, they were just taking another life. I watch the news every morning. People are seeking peace. However, incidents against peace are occurring all over the world, at every place and every moment. As we pursue peace, let us ask ourselves, what can I do to bring the peace? As I reflect upon myself on the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bomb and recent tragedies during this pandemic, I'm reminded of my own weapons, which are greed, anger, and ignorance. I become greedy and pursue the comfortable way if it is convenient for me to accept. I become upset and angry toward not convenient for me to accept. And moreover, I don't realize my ignorant nature, that I'm always wandering and suffering with my greed and anger. I'm bound to those dangerous weapons in my mind until my life ends, as they are actively working at all the time. The Buddha Dharma is my spiritual foundation and a guide to realize my ignorant nature and how to live in this world of suffering. And this morning, I'd like to share with you a short story. There was once a Buddhist master who lived with a young one-eyed disciple at the temple. And one day, a traveling priest visited the temple and requested to study under the master. Then the master replied by saying, "You decide for yourself whether you would like to remain here or not. Go into the garden, you'll find a young disciple. Talk to him and decide whether you'll remain here or not." The visiting priest, determined to make a showing, decided that he would communicate with this young one-eyed disciple using sign language. So he tapped the disciple on the shoulder and raised his index finger. The young disciple immediately replied by showing him 2 raised fingers. The visiting priest, not to be outdone, put up 3 fingers. As soon as he did, the young disciple raised his hand in a fist. Upon seeing this, the visiting priest quietly walked back to the master saying, "I do not match for that young disciple in the garden. I do not deserve to be here. I shall take my leave." Then the master, puzzled about what happened, asked the visiting priest what had taken place. My index finger to signify the Buddha. The young disciple immediately held up 2 fingers to Buddha and Dharma. I next raised 3 fingers to represent the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And without any hesitation, the young disciple raised his hand in a fist to show that although Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are different, they are one. I'm no match for such a brilliant and wise disciple. Having thus explained what happened, the visiting priest left the temple. And soon afterwards, the young disciple came running up from the garden, obviously very upset, saying, "Where is that guy? He came up to me and put up 1 finger to tell me I had only 1 eye." I politely replied by saying, "How wonderful, you have 2 eyes," by raising my 2 fingers. He then further insulted me by raising 3 fingers, meaning, although there are 2 of us here, between the 2 of us, we have only 3 eyes. I was so mad that I raised my fist to punch him in the face, but he ran away. The story ends here. I always think and see others or things in my self-centered mind and judge them whether it is valuable or not, good or bad, justice or injustice, and so forth. I always decide one's quality and ability through my self-centered views and calculations. However, from the Buddha's enlightened eyes, all things and lives are equally valuable, whether we are educated or not, poor or rich, men or women, young or old, and so forth. The story reminds me of my evilness and ignorance, which comes from my ego, self-centered mind, and self-attachment. Also, the story reminds me of the importance of harmony. A visiting priest told a very important message. Although the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha are different, they are or should be one. It means, although each of us has different labels, such as nationalities, lifestyles, and so forth, we should be one in unity and pursue the peace of the world in the Buddha's great compassionate mind. The nuclear weapons dropped in the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is just one of the tragedies, and the dates, August 6th and 9th, give me the opportunity to reflect upon myself and realize my self-centered nature in the working of infinite wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. The Buddha Dharma is like a mirror which clearly reflects and shows my true self. So let us all review our responsibility to change our self-centered society of disharmony to a happy, harmonious, and peaceful world. And let us all positively move on to create a more harmonious world in which there are unity and respect for all. It is my wish that every one of us become mindful of the Buddha always and live a fulfilled life in the Nimbus. Thank you very much for listening. I now would like to deliver my message in Japanese. 皆様、おはようございます。先ほど、花田総長がご紹介くださいました、昨日、西ロサンゼルス仏教会の開教師として着任いたしました高田広報と申します。皆様と共にお念仏の見教えをお聞かせいただくことを大変楽しみにしております。共にお念仏の日暮らしを喜ばせていただくお道業としてお育ていただきますようよろしくお願い申し上げます。このお寺のメンバーさんの中には広島と鹿児島からの方がたくさんおられるとお聞きいたしました。今年は広島、長崎に原爆が投下されて75周年を迎えます。日本は唯一の被爆国です。広島、長崎では20万人を超える尊い命が原爆の犠牲となりました。ご遺族をはじめ、今もなお後遺症に苦しむ被爆者がいることを私たちは忘れてはいけません。今からちょうど5年前に広島、長崎に原爆が投下され70周年を迎えた年に当時のアメリカの大統領オバマ氏が原子爆弾が投下された広島を訪問されました。でオバマ元大統領は広島を訪問されて平和公園で原爆により亡くなられた方々に対して献花をされて哀悼の意を示すスピーチをされました。その中でオバマ大統領は罪なき日本人、そしてアメリカ人捕虜を入れて10万人以上の尊い命が一瞬にして亡くなりました。その方々が語りかけておられる。自分たちは一体何者なのか振り返るように、内省するように語りかけているということを言われました。では私たちはどのように自分自身を 内省することができるのでしょうか。日本のお寺には必ず掲示板があり、その掲示板にはいつも標語が掲げられております。あるお寺の標語に、自分のわがまま当たり前、他人のわがまま許せないという標語がありました。私たちは常に自分の物差しで物事を見て判断し、いいか悪いかを決めてしまいます。自分のわがままには気づきませんが、他人のわがままにはいつも厳しい目を持ちます。宗祖親鸞上人は、大悪人獣の凡夫と自身のことを信知されました。私たちの愚かさはどこまでも根深いのです。私たちはまず自分の心の中に一番危ない核兵器を持っているということに気づかねばなりません。自分の都合のいいことは貪り求める。都合の悪いことには怒る。そのように自分の欲望に振り回されている自身の愚かさにも気づかない煩悩具足の凡夫です。この古家不実の我が身に具足している煩悩によって、私たちは毎日の日暮らしの中で小さな戦争を繰り返しているのです。他人の悪いことはよく見えるけれども、自分のわがままはよく見えない。親鸞上人は、煩悩具足の凡夫、固く無常の世界は、よろずのこと、皆もって空ごとたわごと、まことあることなしと、私たちが生きるこの娑婆世界を鋭く指摘されておられます。ですが、私たちは仏様の御教えを聞かせていただくことによって、阿弥陀様の知恵のお光に照らされて、自分の愚かさに気づかされるのでございます。私たちは一人一人が命の尊さに目覚め、自己中心的なあり方、すなわち私たちの愚かさを克服していかねばなりません。原爆犠牲者追悼法要や平和を願う法要が務まる際には、よく鐘を鳴らします。お寺では鑑賞を鳴らします。鑑賞というのは、お勤めが始まる、ただ単にお勤めが始まる合図ではございません。鑑賞というのは、呼ぶ鐘と書きます。ですから、この鐘の音は仏様の呼び声でございます。で、今日は十声下をお務めいたしましたが、三仏下に小学第四香流十法という御門がございます。鐘の音は仏様の御教えを十法を余すことなく、すべての空間に響き渡ることを願い、仏法を伝えるものとして大切にされてきました。その鐘の音と同じように、知恵と慈悲に限りのない仏様のお働きがお念仏、南無阿弥陀仏となって私たちに届いてくださっておられます。仏様がお示しくださいました香流十法のお心をいただき、またこのご縁を通して親鸞上人のお言葉、世の中安穏なれ、仏法広まれというお言葉を深くいただき、一人一人が命の尊さに気づき、自他ともに心豊かに生きることのできる平和な世界を共に築きさせていただきましょう。本日はようこそのお参りでございました。Thank you very much for listening. Would you please join me in 合唱、どうぞ合唱ください。南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏。
Thank you very much, Sensei, for your Dharma message this morning. Now we will have Reverend Amy present her Dharma message in English.
南無阿弥陀仏。弥陀成仏のこの方は、今に実行へ構えり、方針の降臨際もなく、 千の模様を照らすなり. I take refuge in Buddha. From the time Amida became a Buddha until the present, 10 kalpas have elapsed. The Dharma body's light boundlessly shines on the blindness of this world. Namandalts, namandalts, namandalts. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on this very first Zoom Sunday gathering for the West LA Buddhist Temple. This is also my first time joining you at the West LA Buddhist Temple, so I'm very excited to be here and share a message with you for the first time. This is a very interesting setup for me because I cannot see any of your faces. So I'm used to looking out to a sea of people in the Gejin, so I look forward to the day when we can all be together in the same room and see each other in person. But I would like to share, so this passage that I've just read is a poem written by Shinran Shonin, and is part of poems that Shinran wrote on the Pure Land, the Jodo Wasan. And in these poems, Shinran Shonin wrote many verses praising Amida Buddha. In this particular poem, Shinran Shonin is describing, this is his very first poem, and Shinran Shonin is describing what he feels the Buddha is doing for us in this world. Shinran Shonin wrote, "The Dharma body's light boundlessly shines on the blindness of this world." The blindness of this world in this poem refers to our own ignorance, our human ignorance, our inability to see things as they truly are. These words sound easy enough to understand, but do we really know what these words mean? So I would like to share with you a story, a parable from the time of Shakyamuni Buddha. Once there was a king, and the king asked his assistant to gather people of the realm who had been blind from birth. The assistant obliged and gathered all the people in the area who were blind. Upon their arrival, the king ordered the assistant to show blind people an elephant. And as asked, the assistant brought an elephant in front of the blind people who he had gathered. To some of the blind people, the assistant showed the blind people the elephant's head and said, "This, blind people, is what an elephant is like." To some of them, the assistant showed the elephant's ear, saying, "This, blind people, is what an elephant is like." To some of them, he showed the elephant's tusk, the elephant's trunk, the elephant's foot, and the tuft at the end of the elephant's tail. And to all of them, he introduced the blind people to the elephant, saying, "This, blind people, is what an elephant is like." After all of the blind people had been introduced to the elephant, the assistant reported back to the king, "Your Majesty, the blind people have seen the elephant." Upon hearing this, the king went to the blind people and asked them, "Blind people, have you seen the elephant?" They replied, "Yes, Your Majesty, we have seen the elephant." And then the king said, "Now tell me, blind people, what is the elephant like?" The blind people who had been shown the elephant's head said, "The elephant is just like an earthen jar." Those who had been shown the elephant's ear said, "The elephant is just like a winnowing basket." Those who had been shown the elephant's tusk said, "The elephant is just like a large pipe." Those who had been shown the trunk said, "The elephant is just like a log." And those who had been shown the elephant's foot said, "Your Majesty, the elephant is just like a tree stump." And those who had been shown the tuft said, "The elephant, Your Majesty, is just like a broom." Upon hearing each other's descriptions of the elephant, the blind people grew angry and started arguing amongst themselves, saying, "The elephant is like this. It's not like that." Or, "The elephant is like that. It's not like this. What are you talking about?" And they began to argue and strike each other with their fists. I think that we are like this story of the blind people and the elephant. We experience the world through our own lens, through our own experiences, and we can only see that which we can relate to. And our relation to this world is limited due to our own attachments, our own desires, and our own ignorance. We cannot see life in its entirety, and we cannot see the Dharma in its entirety. Like the blind people of the parable, we argue with each other as if we know it all. And when we do this, we start to get angry with other people, and we start to think mean things sometimes, and our thoughts and words become weapons that we harm each other with in our minds. And in some situations, this escalates to physically harming each other. It is, however, because of our blindness that Amida Buddha created the vows so that all of us can become Buddha in the Pure Land. Amida Tathagata is constantly compassionately shining light of wisdom on all of us. The Buddha is trying to help us see that there is a world beyond just our own limited view and what we think is right and what we think is the whole world. From the Buddha's perspective, we are all running around blind, running into each other, hurting each other, and the Buddha is feeling compassion and pity for us. And so the Buddha is trying to help us get out of this wandering and lost state. Even if we don't want to admit sometimes or often that we don't know it all. And we often don't want to admit or cannot admit how ignorant that we can be. Even though I cannot admit to my own ignorance, I know that Amida Buddha is continuing to illumine me with the light of wisdom. The Buddha is wishing for my well-being, and the Buddha is wishing for the well-being of all of us. Through the Buddha's vow, through Namo Amida Butsu, Amida Buddha is inviting all of us to return to the Pure Land so that we too can become Buddha. And once we become Buddha, then we can also help guide others to leave this world in which we wander lost and blind. Shinran Shonin was someone who practiced for 20-something years difficult practices. And even Shinran Shonin realized that Amida Buddha's vow, Namo Amida Butsu, was the only way for him to be able to reach enlightenment and to become a Buddha. And this was a very special gift. And it was out of this heart of indebtedness for the Buddha, for the Buddha's gift of giving us enlightenment, for giving us wisdom, for giving us compassion, that he wrote this poem and took refuge in Amida Buddha. Shinran Shonin's poem shows us that Shinran also wishes for others to realize Buddha's compassionate working that illuminates us in this world of ignorance. And Shinran Shonin is urging us to take refuge in Amida Buddha as well. So as we all continue to gather here at the West LA Buddhist Temple, I hope that we can all continue to listen, to hear and reflect on the Nembutsu, and listen for the light of Amida Buddha, and listen for the compassionate working of the fundamental vow. With this, I would like to invite you to please join me in Gasho, palms together, and I will reread Shinran Shonin's poem. I take refuge in Buddha. From the time Amida became a Buddha until the present, 10 kalpas have elapsed. The Dharma body's light boundlessly shines on the blindness of this world. Naman Dapts, Naman Dapts, Naman Dapts, Naman Dapts, Naman Dapts. Please join me in Gasho for the reading of the Ryogemon. the words of understanding of our tradition. Ryogemon. We rely upon Amida Buddha with our whole heart for the enlightenment in the life to come, abstaining from all sundry practices and teachings, and giving up the trust in our imperfect view. There is no doubt that the assurance of enlightenment comes at the very moment we entrust and we recite the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, in joy and gratitude for the Buddha's compassion. We also acknowledge gratefully the benign benevolence of our founder and succeeding masters who have led us to live in this profound teaching, and we do now endeavor to follow throughout our lives the way laid down for us. Namandalts, namandalts, namandalts. We will now read Ryogemon in Japanese. 合唱お願いします。両下出言。もろもろの造業雑種自力の心を振り捨てて、一心に阿弥陀如来我らが今度の一大事の御所、御助け将来と頼み申して候。頼む一年の時、往生一条助け事情と存じ、この上の称名は豪能者と存じ、喜び申し候。この恩断り弔問申し分け候こと、ご解散承認ご出世の言、次第相乗の前時式の朝からざるご関係のご恩と、ありがたく存じ候。この上は定めを課せられる王のきて、一号限り守り申すべく候。Namandalts, namandalts, 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 namandalts.
Thank you very much, Reverend Umezu, for your Dharma message this morning. Well, this concludes our service for today. I do have a few announcements. Now, for the remainder of August, we will have services on August the 16th and the 30th, and all services will start at 10 a.m. Also, the Arizona Buddhist Temple, co-sponsored with the Southern District Buddhist Education Committee, present an educational webinar with a very special guest, Reverend Dr. Duncan Williams. And the theme is Comparing and Contrasting the Prison Camp Experiences of Japanese Americans during World War II and Migrants at the Mexico-United States border today. This is open to anybody. It is on Sunday, August the 9th, beginning at 10 o'clock. And we will be sending an email blast to everyone with details if you have not received it already. Now, moving forward to September, we are planning a fall Ohigan seminar. This is on September the 12th, also at 10. And our guest speaker is Reverend Ryuta Furumoto, who will be speaking in English and Japanese. He is the resident minister at Senshin Buddhist Temple. The Japanese session is from 10 to 11, and the English session is from 11:15 to 12:15. And also, the following day, on Sunday, September the 13th, we will have a fall Ohigan service at 10, and our special guest speaker is Reverend George Matsubayashi, also speaking in English and Japanese. So with that, again, I would like to thank Bishop Marvin Harada for coming out here in person to introduce our new ministers. And we are going to have, at the very end, a meet and greet session. It's going to run about 30 minutes after the service. So if you would like to meet our ministers, please stay on. I have to put my glasses on, excuse me. In closing, I just wanted to remind everyone that the West LA Buddhist Temple is a nonprofit and depends on the dana of others to continue spreading the Dharma. So both senseis have big plans to implement new programs at West LA Buddhist Temple. So with that said, it would be much appreciated if you visit our website and click on the donate button. Anything you can donate is very much appreciated. So that concludes the service today. Thank you very much. And please remain if you would like to meet the new resident ministers. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。